Welcome to our second episode of City Life Uncensored. Extremely excited for today's episode. We've got one of my incredibly good friends and a badass in real estate, Dan Constantino, here with my beautiful partner, Brian Kirshner, and we're looking to shoot some shit today on City Life Uncensored. How you guys doing?
Great. Thanks for having me.
Yeah,
this place is awesome.
Thank you.
Great, man.
Yeah. Our good friend over here, Brian, put this whole place together. It only took him 700 hours to design the place, I think.
I knew as soon as I walked in, I'm like, Brian did this.
Yeah.
Looks great.
Yeah, you're right. He doesn't cut many corners when it comes to doing anything.
And you don't think you're going to walk into this, from the alley here.
Yeah. It's City Life Uncensored in the speakeasy, the speakeasy City Life Uncensored, right? We've got to coin some type of speakeasy way to call the podcast, man. But anyways, appreciate you coming down, hanging out with us, spending some time together. Obviously, you and I, we are on some deals together, right, between Achieve, your business, and our business, City Life, and in the multifamily space. So looking forward to kind of you having the audience hear your story and what's going on there and kind of what you're getting into and how you got to where you're at and all those fun things, man. So why don't you just maybe kick it off here for us and maybe give us a little bit of your background, what you're doing, why we can have you on the show and why you're here to add some value to everybody.
Sure. Appreciate it. Background, grew up in the city here, not too far, just across the river there in the north side. And
for those of you who don't know, people in Pittsburgh don't usually cross rivers. So
no, we don't. Well, that's what divorce will do. So my parents divorced when I was 6. So I did grow up between like the West End area and the north side area. And, wouldn't trade my upbringing for anything, wouldn't want to raise my daughters that way, but it certainly gave me a lot of the grit that's required in this business for sure. But ended up going to college, really that goes, we'll speak about it later, but all about the network, right? Mm-hmm. That got me out of the network that I grew up with, which, again, I wouldn't trade for the world, but certainly put me in a different mindset for sure. Went to college, got an internship that really changed my life.
Where was your internship?
Roadway Express, which was a Fortune 500 company at the time. It was one of the largest trucking companies in the United States from an LTL's perspective, less than truckload. And they just gave me a great opportunity in sales. Always thought of sales as like the used car salesman and always wanted to shy away from it. But like we did entertainments. This was like the early 2000s. People were still entertaining a lot. And like that was the way you got business, right? So I was like, this is the best quality of life there is. Better than accounting, better than management, all that stuff. So I gravitated towards sales.
It's funny that you say that, right, Dan? Because if you think about that was the best life ever because of what you knew prior to that, right?
Yeah.
Obviously, you don't think that's the best life ever anymore because of what you know now, and it's your surroundings, right? I know you're going to get into that a little bit, but it's wild for me to hear you say that.
No, I mean, I'm not a sit at the desk all day guy. You know what I mean? And sales gave me that ability to get out there, meet people, learn how to talk to people, which is obviously crucial in what we do. So long story short, I had a good career there. I mean, I always did well, was always one of the top reps at any company I went to. I worked there for about 5 years, went to another freight forwarder, then third-party logistics company, all in like 5-year increments. That was kind of my expiration date.
It's a lot longer than mine was.
So at the end of the day, you're in commission. I was always salary plus commission, but they would always mess with your commission to make you run on that hamster wheel harder. And I look back, I was always a good employee, but at the end of the day, like when you're performing at that top, you're like 1 or 2 in your region or whatever, you get a little cocky. And when they mess with your money, you're like, I'm going to look at other avenues. And that's when I started looking at investing. So I did try trading options for 2 years and broke even. I'm too emotional for that stuff. And it's too easy to trade. So that's when I got into real estate. I'd listened to Rich Dad, Poor Dad. It changed. It broke my mindset quite a bit and started dabbling in real estate as a side hustle. And my goal was just to make an extra.
So how long ago was that?
That was almost 10 years ago.
Okay.
Yeah. So I still worked another, was that 2013? And then I quit it. So I worked 5 years. Real estate was a side hustle. And my goal was just to flip 2 or 3 houses a year. That's how I started.
Okay. So fast forward, what do you have? What do you have now? So 2013, hey, I'm going to look for other avenues because they keep messing with my commission at the end of the day, right? 5 years, you're doing some small deals. It sounds like 2 to 3 flips, maybe probably getting a couple rental properties in your portfolio. 2018, it sounds like at the end of the day, you kind of took it on full time. Maybe give us a little bit of background as to from 2013 to 2018, where you were in 2018 and what you've done from 2018 to now, and really what you're focused on in your life and real estate investment now in 2018, with having about close to 4 years now full time.
Sure. At the end of 2018, I had 30 units. I was dabbling in some lending and, had a couple flips. At the end of 2018, I had a Robinson flip and a Bellevue flip set up.
Okay.
And I knew that they were going to hit for pretty good money. So it was like, this is the time to go, because I knew I could make.
You had some runway.
Yeah, I knew I could make pretty close to 100,000.
I think I sold both of those.
You sold both of those, Brian. Actually, 100%. Yeah, Roosevelt and Norfolk. They were easy too.
They were easy ones.
Yeah.
They're great properties.
That gave me the confidence. But I had 30 rental units at that time. And in the last 4 years, I've been full time. I had 0 employees at that point. And now we have like 20 employees and we have 6, I think we're at 630. We've sold about 40 units this year.
Okay.
So we're at about 630 units. We have, with my business partner in the property management company, we manage 700 units. And, don't flip that much, but we have a pretty good amount of hard money lending. I think we're somewhere in the $3 to $4 million range in loans.
Okay.
And that's about to get bigger. We just signed a partnership deal this week and may look at another one, but that'll give us kind of unlimited funds to lend. So looking to make that a big picture. So Achieve moving forward is pretty much, multifamily investing and hard money lending is really the 2 avenues we want to.
Makes sense. And so Brian obviously teased it a little bit here, but I want to bring Brian into the conversation because my introduction to you was actually a little bit rough at the beginning when we first met. I think that was in 2019 when I kind of was brought into real estate, right, through Brian. But you guys had a relationship, and it was starting to flourish at that point in time. So maybe if you guys could speak a little bit to your relationship along the way. Obviously, it sounds like right at the time you went full time, Brian was your real estate agent or a listing agent or something, right? Maybe you guys give us a little flavor into that.
Yeah.
I think right around the time that you and I partnered, I reached out to Dan. Probably we knew each other past, just from events, just from me being at 360 Group and just being in the industry. We knew of each other. Mm-hmm. I think it was on a flight. We ended up being on the same flight on the way down to Tampa. Yeah,
really?
Stewart game.
Wow.
Dan was on my list of people to chat with about hard money lending. At the time, probably was up to 18 properties or so. Didn't really use hard money except for maybe a national hard money loan. But Dan was on the list of people to reach out to, so I stopped him. We saw each other on the plane, but I stopped him at the baggage claim. Like, hey, I want to talk to you about some deals. Let's go. And well, we carried on that conversation whenever we got back about doing some funding and stuff. And right around the same time, Casey and I became partners. Yep. And I think we started doing the lending, but obviously we started using you a lot for lending at that time. And you started using me to as the listing agent on some of your flips.
Yep.
Then obviously that partnership continued. We bought Boggs, Augusta, and so I mean,
it's pretty
graduated pretty quickly from there.
It's pretty cool to see the evolution of both our companies. We're doing a lot of the same things and having a lot of success at it. I love seeing your guys' growth. I mean, it certainly inspires me because, coming from, where we come from, sometimes it's hard to see what that next level looks like or if you even deserve it, right?
Yep.
And I've always, I always go back and forth and struggle with how do you push through that? Like how big can you get?
Yeah.
Right. Setting that vision's tough. And we're going through EOS right now. And, that's really helping crystallize, what those levels look like. But yeah, it's I think I was a little conservative on the front end.
Yeah, it's interesting, right? Because for me, with the relationship that I have with you and how we've developed over time, when we kind of at that time back 3-4 years ago, I mean, we didn't know each other. Mm-hmm. We weren't friends. We didn't go to college together. And you start to realize over periods of time how important relationships are with folks that want to do what you're doing or folks that are doing what you're doing and you want to learn and know how to do that. And you realize along the way, they don't think that they're better than you and you're not better than them. And it's all about this abundance mindset of like, how do we help each other? Because if we help each other, we're both going to grow exponentially, right? The old Grant Cardone saying, we're going to 10X. But the more people that you have in your corner helping you that have value to be added to your business, they want to add that because they know as they add value to your business, they're going to get value added back to their business and everybody's going to grow. I think it's the people in competition, right? I don't believe in competition. I say that all the time in real estate because we should be helping each other because we win. And I think too many times people try to get a win and a loss for somebody else. Mm-hmm. I don't like to do business if it's not a win-win situation. And I know you're that same way.
100%.
Right? And so it's interesting from that standpoint and to watch your business grow and how excited I get and how inspired I am watching you grow. To hear you say how inspired it makes you to watch us grow, it's kind of like, it gives me a little bit of the tingles, right? Like,
hey man, I love winning together. I mean, it's... If I had that competitive mindset, like I would have missed out on so many deals. Even like the Urban guys, we partnered up on that Moon Township deal.
Yeah.
Like that was a deal I think we were going to compete on it, and we were like, let's just join forces on it. And we ended up buying them out on that one. But like, you guys, I mean, it doesn't make sense how many times have we really run into each other? One time that I know of. It was that duplex up in Fineview.
Yes.
Outside of that, we really haven't.
That was the only time. There was a lot of back-end negotiations, and it was funny that it was you.
Well, that one sucked.
Wait, which one?
the Fineview one.
Yeah, you won that one. Yeah.
I
don't even know how we found that out, but we were literally negotiating against each other and didn't know that.
I saw when Dan posted that he disclosed on it on Facebook. I'm like, come on, that was you the whole time.
Hey,
we apologize for jump. That price definitely went up when we started in the negotiations.
I didn't know if it was just you guys or what, but that was really the only one on hundreds of deals.
Yeah, who cares at the end of the day? It was a duplex, right? I mean,
yeah,
and I was happy. Dead honest, I was happy you got it.
Oh,
yeah,
100%.
Like at the same time as we're winners, we want to win. It's like, fuck, we lost it. Oh, Dan got it.
Yeah, and the funny thing is you say that. I was actually excited because it's on the same street as one of my friends, Mike's, who actually works at City Life's sister is building on that street. And I knew Dan buying that house was going to add value to the neighborhood because he was going to come in and value add to that property, turn it from a dilapidated piece of crap at the end of the day to a beautiful, nice property, right? And I'm sure you went over budget on it.
We went over budget. Thankfully, the appraisal, we split the deeds on that. As a duplex, I had to reach a little bit for the appraisal, going down to like central north side and stuff like that.
So why don't I stop you here, Dan? Because I think this could be really good. Why don't you give us a little bit of insights into that specific duplex deal? You mentioned splitting deeds. We've never split a deed at City Life, so maybe give us a little insights into how that works.
Sure. So it was like a side-by-side duplex, traditional one you would see, not like the up and down.
Walls shared.
There was a firewall all the way from the ceiling to all the way from the roof down to the foundation, which was important because if you don't have that, you have to have a firewall in between the units or you cannot split them. But long story short, it was set up. They both had backyards, front yards, side by side driveways. So it was perfect to split these into two single family houses. And they were 1,400 square feet, something like that.
Two side by side townhouses.
It was just it was like a row house almost.
Yeah.
So I looked at comps, and this was the main driver. I looked at comps, and it was a reach to get the numbers that I needed to get if I used duplexes in the close vicinity, because there weren't a lot of high selling duplexes up in Fineview. I had to go down to like Allegheny General, the better part where you have in the $400,000, $500,000 duplexes.
Yep.
You just didn't have them up there. So could the appraiser have seen those and gave us those appraisals? Sure. But I had clear comps that single family houses were worth whatever, 200, 300, whatever it was on that street because of the new builds, but also renovated ones. So it was not a stretch on the single families. So all we did was we went down and applied to split the deeds. I had a surveyor come out and draw everything. He actually submitted everything.
What did the total process of splitting the deeds cost?
I would say it cost me, the survey was like, I think all the process, I don't remember off the top of my head. It was around somewhere between like $900 and $1,200
wow.
for the survey and then him to go submit the paperwork. it did bubble up some other potential issues, with we had to do a couple things mechanically to make it. You have to obviously have 2 separate services for electric and plumbing, which you already did have. But there was just some city issues.
You probably had to update them through permitting, et cetera.
Occupancy. We had to go through occupancy, and that process was a little bit messy. We're not pros at splitting deeds. That was the first time we've done it.
Yeah.
But it was worthwhile. We got a much better appraisal. We were able to burr out of it and cash.
So from a summary standpoint, right, then it sounds like, hey, bought this duplex townhomes. We were able to really realize and get creative and understand we could split these, call them single families. The value of a single family home there, when you comp it out, the rents is what you were renting it. So you said, hey, I can co-refinance 2 single families at a much higher ARV value. Once you come in and renovated those properties, the cash flow still made a ton of sense. And therefore you could burr model. So what burr model means, right? You can refinance out of that deal at an 80 or 75% LTV, whatever you did it at, in order to get most of that equity that you had into those properties out of it in order to continue to invest, or maybe a hard money loan that you had on it, et cetera. But basically you were able to really maximize the value of that property right after you're done renovating it by splitting the deeds into 2 single family homes as opposed to a duplex, which wouldn't have comped out as well.
Yeah. And what that means in real dollars, like we were renting them, I think we were somewhere between $1,500 and $1,600 per side, whether it was a duplex or a single family house. Yep. The real money in it was the refinance. If we got the appraisal we got on the single family houses, which we did, it meant that we extracted, I think it was close to $75,000 or maybe $100,000.
And so I know we don't say made, but at the end of the day, you made an additional $75,000 in cash back on your refinance simply by understanding that you could split those deeds.
And it's still, it cash flows.
Yeah. The cash flow wouldn't have changed either way. Oh, yeah. Yeah. I mean, you're obviously making a little bit less on the cash flow because of the loan and the refinance. But at the end of the day, right, the interest rate that you got on at the time, even if it was today, was still fantastic. You're borrowing it today 6-7%, right? You're borrowing $70,000 at 6-7%. That's a win all day.
4% then,
yeah.
And the obviously you guys know this better than most. The best thing about real estate is that you're locking in today's price and you're paying it off with devalued dollars. With inflation the way it is, you're paying it off with devalued dollars over 5, 10, 15 years. So there's nothing more powerful than using leverage. If done properly, you still have to cash flow. That's number one. You still have to cash flow, but get as much money out as you can and use it in your other investments.
Yeah, I still to this day, even with what things are continuing to happen, I've got to have an 80% loan to value on my refinance out, or I'm going to another bank.
Yeah.
Right? 75, 70s, I think a lot of people think that they're common, and they are, depending on your experience levels. But we've done 250 deals at the end of the day, right? I'm getting 80%. Otherwise, I'll find someone that's willing to give me 80%. And I think you're very much in a similar way. We've done 1 or 2 where it was 75, and sometimes it doesn't always comp out to get the full 80% out, depending on what the rent situation is or taxes or whatever be there in the underwriting model. But at the end of the day, that's what makes sense. Let me ask you a question here, Dan, because I think this is important, for the listeners and for us really. And I've done it, and I know Brian never really did it, given being the serial entrepreneur that Brian is. But the transition from corporate America, which you spent a lot of time in, obviously you slow played that, which I think is a fantastic idea. And, I would recommend that to a lot of people in corporate America. You don't have to go all in right away. You can really learn on the side. I mean, I know there's articles flying around out right now where people are calling it silent quitting. I will never call it silent quitting. Don't silent quit. You should always do a great job at what you're doing, but spend your free time learning the real estate game, getting into events. So why don't you give me a minute here and tell us a little about how that transition worked for you, maybe regrets that you had, or struggles that you might have had through that, because it is a very tough transition. It's obviously a huge mindset change. I'm sure your family went through some dealing with a little bit of all of a sudden Dan's a changed person. He's out on his own, et cetera. So why don't you, give us a little insight into that?
Sure. The transition was, again, being in sales, you already believe in yourself. I loved going into January, not knowing what I was going to make for that year. So you already have that mindset. And I will say, coming from the corporate world, which a lot of entrepreneurs don't always have, right? They don't have that structure that we learn.
I know that very well through Mr. Brian Kirshner over here.
But it's important. It's really helped me, multitask and do a lot of the jobs that I did on my own for a long time before I hired actual employees. And it helps me develop them and let them understand like how certain things are done. Obviously, I'm weak in accounting and things of that nature, and you got to hire above you in that respect. But the biggest struggle,
we've had some accounting conversations along the way.
The biggest struggle for me before I quit was, I was making pretty decent money, and we lived a good life. My wife made good money as well, which is also helpful. But I just was worried about what she thought. You know what I mean? I don't want if it didn't work, what does that look like? Money is the biggest reason people get divorced. So I probably asked her 10 times, like, you really good with this? And she was like, just do it. Like, you're going to be happy.
Yeah. It's important to have a supportive wife.
She was my biggest supporter. Yeah. And I wouldn't have done it if she was not comfortable with that. But I also, I want to just go over what you just said. If you're making 6 figures, like, you don't have to quit right away. Mm-hmm. Like, I know, like, you don't have to just jump. It's a grind. So I've been full-time 4 years. Like, it's a grind. Those first couple years are a grind to get super profitable and be able to afford to hire the help that you need.
So much hidden cost at the end of the day, right?
Yeah. So I had to set myself up and my family up financially before I jumped in. Now, if you're making 50 grand, I don't think you wait that long, because I think you can make that easier than you think. But if you're making close to $200,000, $300,000, like, you need to think long and hard before you quit that job, because to really reproduce that in entrepreneur land it's not as easy as people think.
Yeah. And I to follow up on that too, like, other options that I think sometimes are a little less thought about is you can get into real estate without becoming a full-blown entrepreneur. Mm-hmm. Go find a job at a real estate company. There's so many options out there. Hey, we're hiring, right? Yep. At the end of the day, I'm sure you're hiring. You Absolutely. Find the right people that are hustling, that want to get things done, and are going after what they're going after. You could become a real estate agent part-time. You can go, if you're an accountant, go get an accounting job at a real estate company. You're going to learn the books of how real estate companies work. There's so many options that you can get into it, that slow play ultimately what your goal is, which is to become an entrepreneur, if that's what your goal is. And I always say it's okay if it's not your ultimate goal to be an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
But if you like real estate, or you want to do and be a part of something that you're passionate about, you can get a job and you can get the risk-free benefits of having that job. If you're adding value to that company and you're enjoying yourself, that's okay as well. And you can make great money doing that, right?
One of my employees, I hired him last year. His official title is real estate apprentice. He's done bookkeeping for me. He's done running to the PO box to get our mail and distributing the mail. Now he's doing leasing, and I'm rounding him out so that he can eventually do it on his own. He may not choose to, but he will have all the skill sets to be able to do real estate on his own. I'm not one of those people, like the Tomlin thing. What we want, volunteers, not prisoners, or whatever it is.
Yeah.
I think that's a great way to build your company.
Yeah.
As long as they're not like trying to just pilfer off you and stuff like that. And certainly I don't have anyone on my team like that.
Hey, Brian, what's your take on, right? So Dan and I come from corporate America. You obviously know that, and a lot of people do. You've been a serial entrepreneur your whole life, right? What is your take kind of on, hey, when these guys come over from corporate America and you got this serial entrepreneur guy, it's like, I've never had paycheck in my life other than what I made myself, right? Like, how did that play into you and getting in a relationship with Dan and myself? And obviously your perspective is so different than ours. Now, I think we've come way more to your side as entrepreneurs over the last few years and kind of became the visionaries in a sense as well. But for me, that's been a struggle. So how does that look for you in terms of like, hey, these guys are great. They're coming from this corporate America structure, but like, they don't get it like I get it.
So big thing was being an entrepreneur. I knew I was an entrepreneur. So I became very self-aware fast, and I needed to, because I had big goals, big hopes, big dreams. But being an entrepreneur, like, I had to become so self-aware that I didn't have this structure. I'm like, how do you get this structure? How do you learn all these things that companies have? And you learn it, you need to hire, you need to do this, you need to do that. I didn't know how to do any of that.
Yeah.
I had an idea how to do it. I knew I can figure it out, but I was like, how do you fast track that? Obviously, you partner with people, you hire people, or you learn from people and do it that way. So to me, I actually wanted that. I wanted somebody that had some kind of background that I didn't have.
I remember our conversation about that.
Yeah, I had a conversation with Dan, very similar to that too, about I was like, I don't know how to structure any of this stuff. Like about multifamily, I was like, I have no idea how to do it. I said, I'll bring you in on deals, whatever is needed to help grow and learn faster. That's the easiest way to do it. The big thing is just learn, like knowing yourself, knowing what your capabilities are, and don't be shy about bringing somebody else in or giving someone else opportunities, because the corporate world is some entrepreneurs hate corporate America. They're like, oh, I'm not working for anybody. I'm not working for an office. I would have learned so much more if in my early 20s, if I'd have worked at an office for 8 years instead of doing what I did as an entrepreneur during those years. But so that I would have probably been even further now. But I love that structure point of like the knowledge I gained from people like you guys. Same time as I would have never got it. I'd still be trying to figure it out. And I think I could have figured it out. It might have taken her 4 years. It might have taken her 5 years.
I think a big thing is, right, so many entrepreneurs just own a job. And that's the thing. And look, I still own a job. I told one of my employees either last week or this week, they wanted to start a side hustle and they have a lot of runway within Achieve. I said, you can do that and I'll support you, but just understand, like, you're just creating another job for you. Whereas if you just focused here, you'll learn more and you've got runway, both in income and knowledge. But like, we're still slaves. Like, I can't leave for a month. You know what I mean? Like, when I can leave for a month or two, then I will be a true business owner. But there's a big difference. And that's something a lot of entrepreneurs lose sight of. Like, they just own their own job, right? And that's a big thing. And you got to learn those processes and systems,
correct,
from the corporate world without making it a stuffy place to work, so that you can scale and truly step into that ownership / investor quadrant.
Yeah, there's a model, and I'm trying to remember it in my head, right? Where it's, hey, you start out with a job, then you become a hustler in your business, then become an executive in your own business, and then eventually you become, on the board in your own business, and eventually you just become an investor owning your own business. And where are you at along that circle of life of development within your company? And right, we're still, absolutely not. I mean, I still have a job without a doubt, right, in our company, and I don't see that changing anytime soon. We are, actively continuing to build out the structure and business at the end of the day, but it takes time. It takes a lot of time and stress, and right, from that standpoint. Both of you guys hit on this, so I want to make sure that we go back to this and talk about it for a minute here, right, with partnerships and mentorships. And recently I just got coming back from a conference down in Florida. I had a phone call where someone's a wholesaler and they're interested in bringing City Life deals. And I said, absolutely, right, bring us deals. And so I had a couple missed calls, get on a phone call, and someone has a deal with that's listed with a broker and said, I'll send it to you if you sign and he sent me it. I said, sure, send me it. Sent me a 5-page contract joint venture agreement, of which if I buy that deal, which is listed with a broker here locally, I have to pay him $40,000. And so I say that because I want to take a step back and think about the idea of adding value, getting partners, getting mentorships, and how the right world works and how we're building our businesses, right? We're adding value to each other free of charge because we know value is going to come back tenfold to us. And you both touched on that, right? What you're not good at, what you're good at, right? Brian, for instance, in our business, he had started doing some investment. He knew real estate. He was an agent. What he really did prior to that was he hooked me up with a CFO job in real estate. And 10 months later, I'm no longer there. And I come to Brian and say, hey, let me add value to you by fixing your books on these few homes that you bought, because I know that you'd have no idea how to do accounting, right? And so fast forward, here we are. And so maybe just touch on, again, going back to how important mentorships are, if you guys have them in your world right now, from a partnership standpoint, and how that adding of value to other people in order to make their lives easier, better, or taking pain away from them in order to get long-term gains from that.
I think, from my standpoint, I've paid for mentorships, right?
Me too.
Yep. So that's been I like to pay for speed, right? So I've spent,
you're paying to compress time through mentorship.
6 digits of investments and getting people that have done it before me to show me how they've done it. And they're open books. Like, I'm in a couple masterminds that are just, I'm in it in perpetuity. You know what I mean? Because I learned so much. So that's one way to get mentorship. Other mentorships, honestly, have just been organic. People want to help people that they see promise in. And if people just like most people that are successful, I think, want to help people, but they don't want to spend their time on people that are just going to listen and never execute. Mm-hmm. So when you show that ability to take something, process it, and then implement it, they'll keep feeding you. And not even like, you don't even have to do anything for them sometimes. You know what I mean? I have many mentors that like, they don't get anything out of me other than pictures of like, you know, my daughter smiling, Stephanie, you know what I mean? Like I have people that genuinely just love to see the growth that we've had and they pour into me and like just become friends. It's not a true like, it's never, hey, will you be my mentor? That's never been a setup for me. And I bet
well, I think there's mentorships in different areas of life and business, and you could be a mentor to somebody that's also a mentor to you. And I think that goes underlooked. Like, I think you're a mentor to me in a lot of ways, right? And you don't even realize that. It's just our friendship and what I learned from having friends that are doing great things that turn into mentorship in certain ways and back, right? Yeah. Like I help you on different things, and it's just a natural progressing relationship at the end of the day.
You know, it's funny just thinking about that. Let's just boil it down to that. Like when I learn something, I just know that you'll either appreciate it or I want to hear your thoughts on it to see if it's something stupid. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I don't call Casey, and just, I think this is important for people to listen to, right? Because I get a lot of people say, how can I get some of your time? And it's tough. I can't return all those calls. I've never once said, man, I think Casey will like this and maybe I'll get something in return for, you know what I mean? Yeah. Like it's never been that. It's
want feedback.
I learned something. I think Casey could, you know, this might be interesting to him, and I call you and get, you know, it's not, not giving you anything. I'm just trying to bounce ideas off one another, and like that's how the relationships form. It's not a system, you know what I mean? It's not something I'm trying to teach people. Just be good to people.
Yeah.
Like I said, I always operate under the guise of, you know, I never want to do bad business and have to hide around the corner if I see someone out on the street. You know what I mean? Like that's the genesis. That's my heart. That's like where it all comes from, right? I've screwed up many times in this game. You know what I mean? I'm gonna keep screwing up. You know what I mean? I keep getting better, but those screw ups.
Screwed up this morning.
Those screw ups, you know, obviously prepare us for the next endeavor.
Yeah, I mean, you know, and I'll turn it to you, to Brian, and see what you have to say. But like, couldn't agree more, and especially on if there's areas where you need that help and you don't have it, the idea of suppressing that time is so valuable. And you know, for me, over the last year, I've really, you know, kind of poured into that idea. It's changed my life. It's changed the trajectory of city life without a doubt. And what I think is really cool about it is, you know, Brian obviously believes in that because Brian's letting us do that. We have pretty clear roles in our business, and we didn't write them on a piece of paper. We still have yet to ever write them on a piece of paper as to what, from an ownership perspective, his role is and my role is, but it's so clear, you know, and I kind of run the structure of the business, the day-to-day. I'm, you know, our chief executive officer, and I manage all of those things that come along with that, where Brian's more of our creative guy and our real estate guy, right? We're not buying an asset if Brian's approval is not stamped on that asset, right? Whereas, you know, we're probably not firing anybody without my approval on the hiring and firing of somebody. So for me, it's been pretty cool because we've been able to suppress our business time through paying money for mentorship. And that's what I'm doing. And I have a CEO coach in my corner every week that Brian obviously allows the company to invest in that for us. So maybe what's your take on that?
Yeah. I mean, suppressing time, and that was part of partnership, why I was so open to even partnership with you and just in general. Like even the beginning of this year, I knew we started hiring, or maybe in a little bit of last year, we started hiring like crazy. I was like, I don't know how to manage people. I have an idea, but I was like,
For the record, you still don't.
I don't. I hate holding people accountable. When you're an entrepreneur, you understand I can wake up and I want to go create. I want to go do. I don't want to. I'm trusting if somebody else tells me you're going to do that, they want to do it as well.
Yeah.
But I was like, I quickly need to figure out how to also become a leader, not lose that entrepreneurial ability, not become a manager, but an actual leader. to understand why other people think the way they think and to help faster. So I hired a coach as well on the leadership side.
Good.
Started reading books on the leadership side, just on like the side to try really compressing that instead of, I'm big on learning on the fly, but you can learn on the fly. It might take 5 years. You really need to shrink that down and get that. So with Casey on the business side, the structure side, all that stuff, I said anything that we could provide to him, anything where he can fast track that too, I'm going to get it secondhand through him. I sit in a lot of the same meetings. So
Yeah.
I'm like, all right, he's out there learning this at a crazy pace. I'll sit right in there next to him, listen to all this same stuff. I'm still going to get it as well. Maybe not the exact impact that it's going to have on him, but that's going to impact our entire company. If I can get pieces of that as well while still making stuff happen, I mean, I would do it any day of the week.
Can you imagine coming where we come from, like paying what we do in coaches and mentorships? Like I never would.
I mean, so there's, you know, it's funny you say that because there's just certain things you can't tell certain people in your life.
And
like
how many people
the money that
you,
we've spent on mentorship.
How many people would tell you it's a scam?
Everyone.
Most people.
Pretty much everyone in my old life would say absolutely makes no sense. Why would you do that? It's a scam. The negativity mindset, right? It's not that abundance mindset. And that's the power of getting in the correct rooms. And, you know, I was just as skeptical in my old life. I mean, that's all I
was a
knew.
little crazy when I did the Apex thing.
Yeah.
I've been doing it
Yeah.
almost 3 years now.
Yeah.
I remember when you first brought it up too. And it sounded like a high number. Whenever I look back at it, I didn't pay for college. I only went a few years, but I got financial aid because of my upbringing.
Yeah.
So I got lucky there.
Me too.
But looking at it, it's like people paid 40 grand a year for some bullshit general knowledge classes. I was like, so to me, paying 40 grand for anything that's really relevant to what we're doing that we can see direct results from, it's a no-brainer. Pay double, triple that. It's a no-brainer.
Yeah.
And that's, I don't know how people don't view that. They'll just throw 40 grand away on a year of college. That's
Yeah.
like, yeah, your general studies. And
you just partied the whole time and spent more money anyway.
Yeah.
It's an experience. I get.
Oh, you were able to get a loan for it. That's what makes it. No, it's the same thing. Now you're just paying interest on it,
You
right?
get a loan if you really need to pay for mentors.
And it's still work. It's still work. Like you're not hitting the easy button whenever you pay for this mentorship, right?
You got to execute.
It's a grind. You know, I just for our EOS we had to read, and I listened to all my books, but Good to Great. And my favorite chapter was the flywheel.
Flywheel's fantastic.
You know, that's what it is, man. You got to keep pedaling.
But then you got to sit down and like build out your flywheel.
Yeah.
And you've got to really put time, energy, and thought into what that flywheel is for you, what it means, how you get it on paper. That's difficult to do at the end of the day, right? But you've got to do it. That's
you
the
got to do
key.
it every single day.
You've got to wake up every day wanting to do that. And if not, go back, live in your negative world, right?
Yeah.
You know, it's funny, right? So maybe to change gears a little bit here, and not really, but we buy mentorship. Clearly, we pay for that. You're traveling, and you're right. I used to think 2 years ago, Dan travels to Dallas every month. Like I'm not interested in doing that. Right. And now I'm traveling probably just as much as you are in order to get in these rooms with the people that have been there and done what I've done to suppress that time and provide that. But we do it for a reason, obviously, right? Because we've had challenges, we've had struggles, we made huge mistakes, maybe we regret, etc. Right? It's not just to say, hey, this guy I know is going to make me better. We're saying, hey, I know I don't know these things and I messed up on this. I'm going to get help so I don't do that again. You got any stories, man? Any big regrets? Any like crazy challenges that you had faced that really impacted your life and your business to where it is now?
I don't have any huge regrets. I have some mistakes that have sucked, you know, have cost me $50,000-$60,000. You know, when you get into the entrepreneurial world, as you guys know, you know, you get so focused and you put your head down and work. Obviously, it's tough sometimes to keep, like there is not balance in my life between personal and work. I work more than I have personal life, but I'm still very present in my daughter's lives and my wife's life. And that is super important to me, but I'll never claim to be balanced. You know what I mean? And sometimes, like, you know, with the Beaver deal, obviously, that you guys are a part of, like this year's been a grind. So like sometimes I can be a prick at home because I'm trying to focus on something. And like, I think the study is out there. If you break your concentration on what you're working on, it's like 15 minutes to get back into it. Like sometimes they just want to talk about, something funny they saw on TikTok. And I'm like, I can't talk about that right now. So, I'm not always my best, you know what I mean? So there's not a huge regret. It's just, there's a lot that, you got to be mindful of the other areas of your life whenever you're so focused on becoming successful in your entrepreneurial world.
Yeah. I kind of agree with you there, but I'll say it a little bit in a different way, because this is what I tell everybody is you have to be chasing happiness to be happy. And it's a lifelong journey to find that, because I know for a fact, Dan, if you went away for 2 months and sat on a beach and had nothing to do,
I'd be bored.
You'd be bored in 10 days. Yeah. You'd be done, right? Because that pursuit of happiness is what your happiness. So yeah, you want that freedom to be able to do whatever is motivating you and driving you that day. And the idea of the personal and the work-life balance and, hey, I spend more time working, I don't necessarily agree that that's what it is. I think it is you're chasing happiness at the end of the day for you and your family, and being able to set everybody up for that. And it's meshed, right? Because we all have to make money. There's few people in this world that don't have to make money, but even those people, they're in ultimate pursuit of happiness. And the reason probably that they have that money is because they've been chasing their happiness and have had success at chasing their happiness. And so if they stop doing that, then they're not going to be happy, right? And so to me, when we interview people and when we hire people, I say, what are your personal goals? Because your personal goals have to be aligned with where the business is going. Because if they're not, you're not going to be happy at the end of the day, and that's okay. But we have to think about how we can align personal goals with the business, with your job, with whatever it is you're doing in your world, in your life, right? And so, while I agree with you that it is all one, and you spend a lot of your time working, I think it is you're spending your time chasing happiness. At the end of the day. I love
what I do. My family knows that. I mean, they get up on Saturday, go boxing and dance. So I got like 4 or 5 hours every Saturday. What do you think I'm doing?
Working.
I'm out hustling, man. Yeah. I love the game. There's no question about it. My wife knows it. She doesn't give me shit over it, but like it's certainly, there's sometimes where you just know you crossed the line. You know what I mean? And I think that's what I'm talking about. I work on that, as much as I can, but like, again, I'm just admitting that I'm not great.
Sounds like maybe it's in the back of your mind a little bit more. Yeah, like, man, am I messing up a little bit? Like
sometimes you don't know.
Yeah, you just don't.
And
then
you hit like, damn, I haven't gone on a date with my wife for 2 months or whatever it is. It
I just got that comment the other day.
Yeah. But it's important, man, because I'll say this: like when my girls go away, like, dude, I don't know if I'd be a great if my wife and family left me, like I would be so. It would be. I can't even explain what kind of person I would be. Yeah. They soften me up enough to be a good human being.
Yeah. Yeah. And yes, I would agree with that. Right. But maybe, how you mentioned she supports you, right? And obviously you work a ton and, you're a great father. I know that. You're a great husband. I know that. And obviously there's always struggles in everybody's marriage at the end of the day in terms of back and forth on the day to day. Right. But overall, you're an incredibly great family man. And you mentioned that she has been your biggest supporter from the day you went full time, and I'm sure continues to be, right? And as I get into these rooms with other folks like yourself and other extremely successful people, it's a common theme with supportive spouses or supportive friends or whatever that is. And if you don't have that, you need to get away from that. And you hear it on podcasts, etc. And even a lot of these folks have their significant others and their kid involved in the business. I know on a day-to-day basis, your wife's not, but maybe speak to how that looks for you in terms of she works a full-time job, right? You have your business. She's supportive of you, but is she involved in the business? Is she asking what's going on? Is she helping you when you need help, whether it's relationships or, whether it's running something to the Met, whatever it is, maybe just speak to how she supports you or how she's involved in your business.
Sure. So she works for a 90,000 employee organization, and she runs the HR for one of the hospitals. It's UPMC, but she has a big
Shout out UPMC.
Yeah. I'm a big fan. She's been there like 15 years.
Hey, that's our healthcare.
Mine too. Ours too. And she has an immense amount of obviously HR experience and employee development, leadership development. UPMC invests a ton of money into their leaders. So certainly when I have some struggles now that I'm up to 20 employees, like it's a little bit like this is different to me because I've been on my own or a small group of really dedicated employees that I didn't have to really manage. Now that you have 20 employees, you've got leaders now. They have to manage people. They've never led anyone before. So like now all this stuff's bubbling up. So she's helped me a ton. You know, you run a construction. We have a construction company. We're an integrated group of companies. So we have a construction company and property management company. There are injuries that can happen, right? What's your injury process? I don't have one.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You call. We do have an HR resource that helps us through that, but like we don't have it documented and stuff like that. Now we do, but she helps develop some of that stuff for us, and you know, I'll say. So she does help me in the business, but she's not super involved. I'll tell you when I did have her involved. This is a funny story. We had a duplex over in Northside, and you know, trying to bootstrap everything, right? So you go do the turnover yourself and clean it. One time. This is disgusting. I can't believe people live like this. And it was gross, like grease everywhere. It was one of those. And I was like, yeah, I'll never involve her in turning over a unit again. So I knew not to involve her in the messy stuff because she's kind of a clean freak. But yeah, I've kind of tried to separate her because we're both type A's. So we will butt heads for sure, like without any question. I think the big thing that has helped us, you know, stay together, be quite honest, is giving each other space. She's big into her own fitness. I wasn't for a long time. 3 years ago, I started my weight loss journey. I lost 35 pounds. Appreciate it. I mean, I used to drink all the time. I didn't, you know what I mean? It's just, that's a chapter in my life that it was fun, but yeah, I'm glad now it slows me down. So like, I'm not doing that anymore, but I give her space. So we try to break it up. She gets 2 nights a week to go work out or go shopping. I don't care. And then I get 2 nights a week and I just go work. I'm pretty much working during those. So I'll do entertainments or relationship building and stuff like that. That's been honestly a big key to happiness for us. I don't think it's necessarily a need for everyone, but we both kind of need our own autonomy because we're those type A's that need to get our stuff done. That's been a big thing that's helped our marriage for sure.
Yeah, that's you know, it's an interesting thing. We've chatted about that before, and so you know, more recently, my wife, you know, several years in corporate America as well. She was in HR as well at another shout out Pittsburgh company, Kraft Heinz.
There you go.
Which I worked at one point in my career as well. Did not meet her there, but you know, recently, you know, she was just unhappy with that corporate grind, and so recently she left there. Now she's just working part-time for City Life, but you know, we made it very clear it's in a role that's not anywhere near kind of my role, and kind of separated those in order to create some of that separation. And so she's working part-time and she's absolutely loving it.
Good.
And the reason I say that is I ask, I mean, does your wife ever have any intentions of joining the business or doing her own entrepreneurial thing? Or is her happiness built into that love of her job and her corporate America life because she gets, you know, whatever the benefits are of having that world for her?
I think she actually came 1 year ago in October. They have a couples event once a year for Apex. She did not love Apex.
Real quick before you tell a story, why don't you tell everybody what Apex is? Because we mentioned it a couple of times. Sure. I know what it is, and yeah.
Sure, it's a mastermind group filled with business owners. There's 3 different levels. I'm in the top tier. These are people,
bad guy.
I say that because the network's important, right? Like yes. These are people that have 7, 8, and 9 figure businesses. I mean, I think there's a couple billionaires in there. I mean, these are people that you would typically not meet in your everyday life. I joined right at the beginning of COVID, and I said, "Hey, I want to be the dumbest person in the room to go."
Love that, man. Love that
this journey, and these people have literally become my family. And at that time, there was only 30 people in the room. Now there's like 200 executive groups. So our group, there's like 200 people in there now. So, everyone thinks I go down there to get this rah-rah speech. And there's elements of it to that, that are in that, Absolutely. But that's not what we go down for. I don't necessarily always go down for the content on the stage. I go down there to be with my people. And like you think about, there's 200 business owners. Most of them are like 99% of them are not in real estate, but they still have something like you can learn from them. Insurance people, truckers, obviously a ton of contractors. It's like Apex is the place for roofers, a lot of roofers, but a lot of electrical companies, solar companies. I could go on and on and on. Neurolinguistics programming, event companies. There's so many things that you could utilize for your business. Again, I don't go down there to use. I just go down there to be with
the network.
And I help people because a lot of people want to learn real estate. And shit, we made an offshoot of Apex where we made an Apex Investors Mastermind. We have 40 people in there. They pay $25,000 a year to be a part of our group because so many business owners want to diversify their investments into real estate. They don't know how. And I know at least a half dozen people down there that got their money taken from unscrupulous people. So we help protect them as well.
And I know I recently met through my group, your Apex partner on the mastermind that you guys run, Brandon.
Yeah.
And just yesterday I sent Brian a screenshot of a post Brandon had and said, you need to read. Brandon is a monster. So you guys are friends now. And
oh yeah. 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 We're on speed dial, man. And we help people people in our group, again, I can't answer everyone's DMs, but in my group, I got to answer them. Yeah. They're my people. We made someone, I think, $50,000 in wholesale fees. We didn't make them, but we helped guide him through 2 deals that made him $50,000 in wholesale.
Why do you do that? Why do you believe you need to be doing that for these people?
Part of it is I want to see them get their money taken from people. And I genuinely like helping people. Obviously, it's just it's a more concentrated effort. These are a room full of action takers. I do when we talk about mentoring kids, right?
I was just thinking the same thing.
I want to be around people that will take action. I will pour into anyone that will take action for no money. But I'll be pissed off if I pour into someone and spend so much time on them, take time away from my business or my family, if they're just gonna go and play video games or not believe in themselves enough to take action.
Yeah.
So when I see promise in people and action taking, I love it. I see, myself in a lot of these people that they just don't know what their potential actually is.
100%. And that couldn't be more true words, right? People don't realize what they have in them because of their upbringing or the people that they're hanging out with every day, the people that they're around. And, I heard an interesting stat from, I'm in another group called Vistage, which is a more local CEO group, similar to Apex, but much more local. We had the CEO of the Pacific Institute as a speaker, and it was yesterday. And he threw out a stat that 81% of our success is mindset. 19% of it is skill set. And I just, I'm a big believer in the mindset. And you made a point, hey, some people say we go down there for the hoorah, and there is a little bit of that. Mm-hmm. That's okay. That's huge to have some of that hoorah because it's going to get you fired up. It's going to get your mindset in the right place. And if 81% of our ability to succeed and win in life and find happiness is mindset, put me around more hoorah then, right?
I love seeing this is when my fellow Apex executives post in our closed group, they're like, I can't share this with anyone in my local network, but we have we call it Ring the Bell. They will share their successes in our group because you have a group filled with people that are actually happy to see you win. Yeah. Actually happy. I have family that said they were happy seeing me do what I was doing. They were not happy. Mm-hmm. And that's just a fact. And you don't grow up. Many people do not grow up around truly supportive people. They say they're happy, but when you're walking away, look at them showing off and stuff like that. You know what I mean? That's just human nature.
That's the mindset.
And Apex, if I could summarize it right, it's our goal is to become the best versions of ourselves. That's not just business. That's also personal. That's why, the reason
has it made you a better man at home?
100%.
Yeah.
What two quick examples. Number one, I mentioned my weight loss. I dropped 35 pounds. No one once told me that I had to work out. No one once told me that you look like shit, Dan. You should quit drinking and work out more. I just was around a bunch of shredded dudes. One guy, Burton, is on like 200 romance novel covers. Like, he's ridiculous. You're in a room with these people. You don't want to be the chubby guy, right? So you got
That's a good way to put it.
And then this other guy, Kurt, they just took on private equity. It was a big deal. Like, they're a huge roofing company, and he. Long story short, he made this one speech. I'll never forget it. It was about your spouse. And if they're in the grind with you, they have to enjoy the spoils, right? And at that time, I was going through a tough time with Nicole, to be quite frank, and I was a little bit of a jerk. I got my Mustang that is the nicest car ever. I was afraid to, park it anywhere, and she wanted to take it. And I was
posting
like,
them Mustangs.
Don't.
She has one now too, right?
Now she has one, because that speech, to be honest, from my boy Kurt, because he said, look, I mean, if they are enduring the grind, which she certainly did, you gotta let her enjoy the spoils too, man. So that was a big thing. But again, that wasn't what was on stage. That was just like talking to the people that you're around.
It's funny you say that, because some of the groups that I've been in, I'm sitting there and someone's on stage talking, and I end up with like a page of notes, and certainly a little bit of it's from what they've said, but like I ended up writing down notes that just popped in my brain while I was sitting there listening to them speak, or while I was talking to the guy next to me, or whatever it was. And those end up being the biggest key takeaways, kind of like you mentioned. And it's like, you don't realize that until you're in the room with these people that are doing bigger, better, greater things than you, and want to see you succeed, and they're trying to pour that value into you. And it sounds like that's exactly what you guys, and why you want to do it with the group that you're now, the leader of and coaching through the Apex program.
And you mentioned Brandon. I mean, we help each other all the time. Like, he didn't know about really how to structure the lending stuff and taking on private equity and how to lend it out and stuff like that. I'm helping him through that. He's given me some key contacts as well. And obviously I learned a lot from him. We don't do development, like neither one of our companies do. We'll probably get there at some point, right?
So I say eventually. A lot of people ask me, do you guys develop? Nope. Maybe eventually, but we don't care right now.
But he's done it, right? So he might have a couple cheat code shortcuts for us.
He certainly will for you, right?
Help us. So, man, I can't speak enough about just being in the right rooms with the right people that are, again, trying to become better every single day.
So obviously, right, I can't even put it on 5 fingers, but I'll try to summarize it with your business, right? Obviously, coming from corporate America, you moved in 4 years ago. You went from 30 to 700 plus. You kind of down at the six something now. I'm assuming that's to kind of get liquid, because the market's about to explode and you want to be a little more liquid to buy. You have a construction company. You're doing hard money lending. You're now clearly a coach and teaching people through Apex program how to become amazing at their life. You got it all going on, right? What's 5 years from now look like for you?
5 years from now, my goal is to just keep building up assets, right? Like, to numbers I never dreamed of, right? I have that saying, no finish line. That's like the tagline that I use to motivate myself. And part of that is, and you want to talk about regret? Regret is I've met every goal I've ever set for myself. So that tells me that my goals were never big enough, right?
Yeah, that's good. That's great, man.
And so, honestly, you'll obviously get to meet my CFO. I'm very high on her, and she's pushing the goals for sure. Like, she has big numbers in mind, and it's exciting to be around those people, because I mean, in all honesty, I've never had anyone that can think on that level on my team. And it's very exciting. Obviously, you've always talked big numbers, and I'm like, sometimes it's tough just coming from where you come from. Yeah. Like, I've already exceeded anything I ever thought I would become. So now to talk about billions and stuff like that that's in the ballpark. 5 years from now, we just set our 3-year target. It's hundreds of millions, but in 10 years, we're in the billions in asset. And does that mean it's all multifamily? No, there's other asset classes that we can move into once we perfect what we do in multifamily. But multifamily's hard, man. Tons of tenants and this and that. So we're always looking for different ways. And but you also got to be cognizant of not chasing the shiny penny. That's the balance.
Yeah.
And once you get good at what you're doing and then you can hand it off, then you go into the other asset class. That's my opinion. Anyway.
Yeah. Brian, we need to get, so I listened to Brad Lee's podcast, and I think he's really good, and he drops bombs, right? When there's a lot of value added. The amount of value that was just created for anybody that ever watches everything that you just said today. I mean, it's unbelievable. We need to get some type of, we can't steal Bradley's bomb dropping, right? But some type of tagline where we could throw it in there on all the incredible value added. We really appreciate it. Maybe let's end it here with, if you had to give one thing, right? One biggest takeaway or value add that you can give. I don't care if it's super small because it's super tactical or a mindset, whatever it is. Give me one thing that if someone only listens to the next 30 seconds is going to be extremely valuable to them. Go.
Always do what you say you're going to do. As simple as that is.
Always do what you're going to say. Always do what you say you're going to do.
That's been my biggest key to success, man. I mean, I've had countless people help me because they know that they can trust me.
Yeah. Listen up. No finish line.
No finish line.
No finish line. Appreciate having you, Dan. For Brian and myself, City Life Uncensored. Always. Let's have a day.